Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you some voice control dictation tips. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now there are two different types of dictation you can use on your Mac. The first type you enable by going to System Settings and then scroll down and go to Keyboard. Then under Keyboard look for Dictation. Turn that on and then notice the keyboard shortcut that you're using. So in this case let's set it to press the Control key twice. So to use it you would use the keyboard shortcut and then you would speak what you want to dictate. Then you could use the keyboard shortcut again, usually just tapping it once, and it will turn off and you would activate it again the next time you needed it. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Period. This is really handy for typing things like text messages. It lacks a lot of the more advanced features you could use with the other type of dictation. To enable the other type of dictation, instead of Keyboard, go to Accessibility. And in Accessibility look for Voice Control. Go in there. You can select the language that you're using to dictate. You can select a microphone if you have more than one. And also you could click the Commands button and see a long list of special commands. Some of these are for controlling your Mac. Like the first section here is basic navigation. Voice control is a combination of being able to control your Mac with your voice and use dictation. If you're just going to do dictation you don't need to worry about these navigation controls. Instead you can skip right down to the sections here that have to do with dictation. You've got a dictation section, you've got text selection, you've got other things like for instance text navigation and text editing. I'm going to switch on voice control and notice I'll get a little indicator on the screen and I could use that to sleep or wake up voice control. So you don't have to use it all the time. Once you turn it on here you can kind of pause it. So by clicking sleep there I paused it. Now it shows wake up. And it does show in the microphone that it is hearing my voice. It's just not using it for voice control right now. So now if I want to dictate in Pages I'll click here to wake up and then I'll dictate. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Period. And you can see here I clicked there to stop it so I can continue talking in this tutorial without it transcribing everything I say. So now let's get to the tips. So the power behind voice control is you have all these different commands you can use to help with your dictation. So let's start by looking at how to simply delete the last thing that you said because sometimes it gets it wrong. In that case you could use simply delete that and it will delete the last part that was transcribed. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Period. Delete that. So if I were to do this in sections it would only delete the last section. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Delete that. You could also say delete previous and then give it a number and then words like this. Delete previous 2 words. Now whenever you specify a unit of text like words you can also say character, sentence, line, or paragraph. Delete previous 3 characters. Now it's even easier to delete things if you know you can speak a phrase instead of just deleting what's before the blinking text cursor. So for instance if I wanted to delete the words quick and brown I could do that like this. Delete quick brown. Notice now the blinking text cursor is right where the deletion happened. It's just like if I selected the text with the mouse or trackpad and hit the delete key. But what if at this point I just wanted to continue typing? How would I jump to the end? Well you could do that simply with move to end. Move to end. You could also say move and then before or after and then a word or phrase. Move before jumps. Move after lazy. Now you can also use move and then up, down, left, right to basically simulate the arrow keys. Move left. Move right. You can also say move forward and back and then give it a number of characters, words, sentences, lines, or paragraphs. Move back 7 characters. Move back 3 words. Move forward 5 words. Now if you want to select something, you could say select and then the word or phrase to select. Select jumps over. You can also say select previous or next and then a number of words. Select next 2 words. Select previous 3 words. Now you can also extend the selection by saying extend selection and then a number of words, or extend selection back and a number of words. Extend selection 2 words. Extend selection back 1 word. At this point I want to stop and go back into System Settings here and click the Commands button. And then take a look at some of these in here because you get a lot of detail in the description. So if I look for extend, I could see what I was just using, and you can see here I could say extend selection by say 7 characters or words or sentences. I could also say extend the selection forward by and then a number of characters or words or whatever. So there's sometimes variations. The variations are very important because if you find the way you speak it won't recognize extend selection 7 words. That just doesn't work. You could try the alternative. Extend the selection forward by 7 words and see if that works better. Here's another example. You can say move to end of line, move to the end of the line, go to end of line, go to the end of the line. If you find something isn't working for you, first check here and look at the description. Make sure you're at least using one of these. It's very easy to fall into a speech pattern that is similar to one of these but not exactly right. And if you are using one exactly as written but it's still not working, try one of the variations. It may work better for you. Now if the reason you're doing the selection is to replace one thing with another, then you could skip making the selection and just use the replace command. Replace fox with wombat. Replace quick with fast. You can also use insert to insert a word before another word, like this. Insert super before fast. Insert slow after the. 2. Notice there that the word the was ambiguous. There were 2 of them there. So it gave me numbers and I had to choose a number by saying the number. This works with a lot of different commands like selection, replace, insert, and all of that. If it's ambiguous which one you mean, it's going to give you some numbers to choose from. Now of course sometimes dictation gets it wrong. Actually quite often. That's why you need to work at it and make corrections. Now you can use correct that to see variations and maybe choose a different variation on what you said. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, period. Correct that. 2. Of course that's just an example. It got it right the first time in that case. But you can actually say correct and then a phrase like this. Correct jumped over. Now even if none of the suggestions are right, you can simply take what has been selected as a selection and then speak the correct thing at that point. Correct jumped over. Jumps over. Now sometimes you may have trouble speaking a command and it instead takes what you said and uses that as text. If so, you can actually put voice control into command mode where it will not take anything as dictation and only try to listen for commands. Move back 3 words. Delete that. Command mode. Move back 3 words. Dictation mode. So you can see there how I put it into command mode in order to issue the command, not have it mistaken for a dictation text, and then I put it back into dictation mode. There's also a third mode called spelling mode, and this is new in macOS Ventura. And once you set it to spelling mode, it's going to just listen for letter names so you can spell something out. Spelling mode. G-A-R-Y. Dictation mode. But there's another way to spell things out. You can use the phrase press the key and then the key name and do it that way. It even works if you add Shift or Option to it. Press the key Shift G. Press the key A. Press the key R. Press the key Y. One very difficult thing to do with dictation is type a word that's also a punctuation mark. Like for instance this. It's hard to type the word period. Let's try it again, but I'm going to use the word period twice. Once for the word, once for the punctuation mark. It's hard to type the word period, period. So sometimes you can trick it like that, but it varies by situation, by the context, and sometimes it's just impossible. You have to just type out the word as best you can. You can also type emoji characters, but to do that you need to know the name of the emoji. So I'm going to use the keyboard here and do Control Command Space, or you can use the globe key and E, and I'm going to move my pointer over one of the emoji, and you can see it gives me the name of these emojis here. So I could remember the name of one, like grinning face, and I could use that. Grinning face emoji. Heart emoji. Canadian flag emoji. Now back here in System Settings, there's a button here for vocabulary, and you can use the plus button and add your own vocabulary words to the list of words that should be recognized in dictation. But you can also do that by selecting a word and then adding it. So after typing it out or using a method to spell it out with dictation, you can select it and then say add to vocabulary. And now you'll see it appear here in the list. Another thing you can do here is in commands you could add a special command. You can use the plus button here and then you could put a when I say. So for instance it's having trouble capitalizing MACMOST properly. So I'm going to put MACMOST and then when using any application and then perform and then paste text. So the text is going to be MACMOST with the second M capitalized. MACMOST. Notice here it pasted with a style, which is unfortunate. I can actually go and type using the style I'm working in and then copy that, and then here I can change this to use the right style. But unfortunately that's just the right style for now. It may not be the right style the next time I'm using it in a document. But then on the other hand, being able to paste text with styling could be useful in other situations. Now when you speak numbers, sometimes it'll do it as a digit, sometimes it'll do it as a number. For instance, the number 3. Period. 1, 2, 3. So you can see it knew with the succession of numbers I probably wanted digits. But when I wanted 3 just by itself, it put the number 3. What if I actually wanted it to use the digit 3? Well, I could use the word numeral for that. The number numeral 3. Period. You could also use that to make sure it's using a number when it may interpret it as something else. The number 2. Delete that. The number numeral 2. If you want to capitalize a word, you can select it and use the phrase capitalize that. There is something going on here. Select something. Capitalize that. You have other phrases you can use as well. You can see capitalize that in the variations. You can use capitalize and the phrase. So I didn't have to do selection there. I could have just said capitalize something. You can do lowercase. You can do uppercase. You can even do bold, italics, and underline. Now I'm going to show you the most powerful phrase to use when dictating, and it's actually the same as the most powerful command you would use while typing. When typing, the most important thing to know that you can do is undo. Command Z. Well, you can undo that in dictation as well. And it's important to know this because it's more powerful than most other things. So using undo allows you to go back multiple steps. Replace lazy with sleepy. Delete brown. Insert cute before sleepy. Undo that. Undo that. Undo that. And in addition, you can also use copy, cut, and paste in dictation. So here are some examples. Select jumps over. Copy that. Move to end. Paste that. Select quick. Cut that. Move to end. Paste that. There are a lot of different commands. If you just look through the list, check each one out and see how it's used and what the variations are. And remember that you have to meet voice control halfway. It will try to interpret what you're saying, but it won't always get it right. Sometimes you need to speak slower, more clearly. You've got to have a little bit of spacing between the words that you're saying. Sometimes you have to say a word slightly different than what you're used to in order for dictation to work. It is easy to get frustrated with it, I know. And remember that if you can type but you just rather use dictation, you could always combine the two. You could always use dictation with your hand on the keyboard and still use the delete key, selection with the trackpad or mouse. You could type a few words here and there. You can dictate other words and kind of combine them so you can type in the most efficient way for you. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.